one for I mean, it's just tough decisions are going to kind of have to be made here.
Yeah, and this is where, man, I feel dirty saying this, but as you talk about it, like it just becomes clear. Financially competing in football is going to be virtually impossible for Memphis. So if I'm a school like Memphis or
They just lost.
Connecticut,
They just lost an offensive lineman to the transfer portal yesterday. As spring, a guy they expected to start. Just to sort of bottom line your point there.
I mean, if I'm a school that thinks I have a shot at competing in basketball, I honestly consider just shutting down football in the modern climate. Like I consider every dollar, if I'm like, look at Connecticut. Every dollar Connecticut spends on football is a dollar they should be spending on basketball because they're not going to be competitive in football. So why not? Like they're going to win 6-7 games at most in a good year, but their basketball team's got a chance at winning natties. So like those are going to be real decisions that I think schools across the board are going to have to start making. Every year you're going to have to look at it.
All right. Those are the words of Jason Fitz, formerly of ESPN Radio, was a co-host along with Sarah Spain. They had a show. I think it was called Spain and Fitz back a few years ago on in the afternoon in the evenings on ESPN Radio. Fitz has now moved on. He was at Fox for a little bit. Now he's at Yahoo Sports. I believe he's a football commentator, football analyst for that network, for that outlet. And he made an appearance on the Jason John show yesterday, discussing the current landscape of college football and college basketball and how things are drastically changing with the NIL. This is always because it's always evolving and money is getting more lucrative for the athletes and things like that, especially for college football and college basketball players, male and female in the college basketball side. And we recently we saw in the NCAA tournament how things have changed. We didn't really see a whole lot of upsets in the tournament, not a whole lot of buzzer beaters and things like that we've seen in the past. We pretty much saw the best of the best play against each other. You know, Final Four was no different. We had a 1 seed versus a 1 seed. Auburn was a 1 seed. It was just the teams that expected to be there in the end were there for the most part. And you kind of saw this trend last year in the Final Four as well, where I believe it was Connecticut, Purdue, North Carolina State, Alabama. It was teams that were expected to be there were there. Outside of, with the exception of North Carolina State. But I don't know if, I think it would be too early to make that decision on shuttering the football program for Memphis football. The program has had so much success over the years, dating back to Mike Norvell's years there, the previous regime before Norvell. Even though Ryan Silverfield has not won the AAC title or even appeared in the AAC title game, the program is having success. It's just having success to where it once was under Justin Fuentes and Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell has had back-to-back double-digit winning seasons this year. This past season, the program won 11 games. You finally, beat Tulane after having, a recent losing streak against them. They have been, I would say, one of the juggernauts in the conference. And this year could set it up, perfectly for you if, especially with Tulane looking to be, in my opinion, a bit weakened after losing Makai Hughes and that quarterback in the transfer portal, Darren Menza. You dealing with Navy, Army. Then you have some other teams rising up, but Memphis, I think, is still in a good spot, man. Memphis football is still in a good spot in regards to college football, in regards to positioning themselves to get into a bigger conference. I would still try to continue to build that program, continue to build. As the stadium's going through the renovations. What would you do? What would you do with all that money? Because and what would you do with a renovated stadium with no football being played in it? You're just gonna end the program, end the funding. You know what I'm saying? Stop the project because that's what that was. The program building up the stadium was mainly about. That was mainly about positioning yourselves to get into a bigger conference. So I believe that the AD, you know, he's going to continue to push forward to get into a bigger conference because, and if they can get into an ACC or a Big 12, this is gonna solve a lot of their issues in regards to having money to compete. It's not, to me, it's not really an issue right now. They're gonna lose players in the transfer portal, but who's not gonna lose players in the transfer portal? Even the big boy schools are losing players in the transfer portal, having players hop in the portal. And to me, Ryan Silverfield has shown that he's comfortable dealing with NIL because a lot of coaches, you know, at his age are, coaches that are older than him are retiring or quitting jobs altogether and going to the NFL and becoming coordinators because they don't want to deal with the new landscape of college football, of college athletics. You know what I'm saying? So I think they should continue to build towards trying to get into a bigger conference. You know what I mean? Because I think that's gonna make things a lot better for them instead of shuttering football, shutting down football, and also I think making the comparison to Memphis to Kentucky to Connecticut, I don't think that's a good comparison in regards to situation. That conference Connecticut is in has a lot. The Big East has a lot more money, has a better TV deal, in my opinion, and has better teams in it. I think you would agree with that as well. That the conference, Big East conference, has more better teams than what the AAC has with Memphis. Make the comparison of how many teams got to the tournament compared in the Big East compared to the AAC. Memphis is the only team that got to the conference tournament. You know, so I think Ed Scott is going to continue. If you ask me, you ask Ed Scott if we're going to shut down football. He's probably going to say no. You know, continue to do what these other programs did to get into bigger conferences. Maybe down the road they reconsider and join the Pac-12, and maybe the Pac-12 gets sucked up into one of these, which I think is going to be two super conferences like the AFC and the NFC of the NFL, and Memphis would benefit from that. You know, but yes, in theory, it makes a lot of sense. You know, for some programs that may not be able to compete to just shut down football and put all their resources into NIL. But not for Memphis though. Connecticut could be able to. Connecticut may be able to do that. They probably won't, but they could. If they wanted to, they can. And also, Connecticut has been at this for years compared to Memphis. Their brand is a lot bigger, in my opinion. They won way more national championships than Memphis. Been in the tournament a whole lot often than Memphis. So I just think that's just kind of to compare a Memphis situation to what is going on with a blue blood, a perennial blue blood. It's just, to me, not a bad take. It's a bad take in my opinion. But I get where he's coming from in regards to that matter. I really do. But the best plan, course of action for Memphis is continue to build, man. Continue to build, continue to win get double digit wins, and when you are in the national spotlight, win games like you did against Tulane when you ruined their chances of getting into the CFP last season. Beat Tulane, beat Navy, beat the teams that you're supposed to beat when you're expected to, and that'll help with your chances of getting to a bigger conference whenever that opportunity may come, or down the road reconsider going into the Pac-12, the newly looked Pac-12. But we'll see how it all play out, man. But overall, I think Memphis will not shut down football. They've come too far with everything that is going on that has transpired with getting the funding to renovate the stadium, things like that. It's gonna take a while. I think they're gonna continue to press forward. Basketball. I think Penny Hardaway, is finally righting the ship in basketball. Won the conference championship, the second one under his tenure. Was the best team in the conference. Injury to one of your guards, to both of your guards, pretty much held you back, in my opinion. So we'll see how it all play out, man. But I don't think Memphis is going to shut down football. So there's that. All right, so I'll have y'all for right now. Give me a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Let me know how you feel. In your opinion, do you think Memphis should shut down college football and focus only on college basketball going forward? And check out sportsview360.com for the latest content on the Memphis Tigers football and basketball programs. Have a blessed day. Peace. I'm out.